The first example we're going to look at is a inequality. So you can see we have a greater than sign and with parentheses in here. So first of all, we always treat the parentheses as like a box. So we have two boxes and we need to get the stuff inside the boxes out of them. And to do that, we use the distributive property. And notice that because the operation between the number in front of the box is multiplication. Again, if there's nothing, it always means multiplication. So we're going to distribute 5 to x and 3. Same thing here, we distribute 4 to x and 2, so we can get them out of the boxes. Okay, so after that, we're going to get 5 times x is 5x, 5 times 3 is 15, and positive 4 times x is positive 4x, and positive 4 times positive 2 is positive 8. Now we don't have boxes with parentheses anymore, so we can combine like terms. And notice that 5x and 4x, and we have 5 copies of x, 4 copies of x together, we can get 9 copies. And similarly, 15 and 8, we can also combine it. So after we combine like terms, all we need to do is to get rid of this 23 and the 9, so we can get x by itself. To do that, we reversed operations. So for example, if we have plus 23, we're going to subtract 23. If now we have 9x greater than negative 33, be careful when we take 23 away from a negative number. So negative 10 minus 23, that actually gives us negative 33. Because you can put a little plus sign between the two numbers, so it's like $10 debt plus $23 debt together, and we are still in debt, which means it's minus, and we combine the two debts, $10 and $23, that gives us total $33. Okay, so now we just need to get rid of 9, and then because the operation between them is multiplication, so we're going to reverse multiplication, that which is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 9, and 9 divided by 9, they cancel out. And so we have this as an answer. So we get x is greater negative 33 over 9. But because the number on the right is a fraction, so we need to make sure it is reduced. So notice that 33 and 9, they both are multiples of 3. So we can reduce them down to 11 and reduce this down to 3. So the answer will be x is greater than negative 11 thirds. And make sure you keep the inequality sign, because in this chapter we are solving inequalities. So usually you're given either greater than or less than, or maybe greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. But you're going to have to keep that, whatever the sign they gave you from the beginning to the end. Only when we divide both sides by a negative number, we flip the inequality sign. But here, since the only division that I did is right here. I divided both sides by 9, and 9 is positive. If we divide both sides by a positive number, we keep the sign. So we keep the greater than sign. We don't flip it. But if we divide both sides by a negative number, we have to flip it. What we need to be careful is it doesn't depend on the number on the right side. Say we have a negative number, we have to flip. No, it depends on what the number we divided by. So for example, this is a number we divided by, and which is positive, so we don't flip the sign. Okay, so in the second example, we're going to look at the one inequality with fractions. So in this case, we previously learned how to solve equations. So instead of having a less than sign, we had an equal sign, and how we solve these. So when we have fractions, we can keep all the fractions and add, subtract, or multiply, divide, whatever we need to do, like we did with whole numbers or integers. But a much better way is to get rid of all the fractions. So when we say get rid of fractions, what makes them fractions is those denominators. So if we can get rid of 5, get rid of 10, get rid of 15, they will be turned into whole numbers or integers. So in order to get rid of these three numbers, denominators, we need to find a least common denominator. And notice that 5 and 10 and 15, they can all go into 30. Again, in the first video, we learned how to find the least common multiple. Right here, we call them least common denominator because these numbers are denominators, but they are just like the least common multiples. And so you can, if you forgot how to do that, make sure you go back to watch the first video we had. The first few videos we had. And but the quickest way, if you don't want to do factoring, the quickest way, you can take the larger number 15 and multiply it by 1, you get 15, but 10 doesn't go into 15, multiply by 2, we get 30, and then you check whether the other two numbers can go into 30, and fortunately 5 goes into 30 6 times and 10 goes into 30 and 3 times. So that means 30 contains 5, contains 10, contains 15 as factors. So this is the LCD. Now we're going to take this number 30 and multiply both sides by 30. Again, because 30 is positive, so we don't need to flip the sign. We keep it as less than. Now what we need to do is, you can put 1 underneath 30. That way you can see 30 is the numerator, and the numerator, a number in the top can cancel a number in the bottom. So 5 goes into 30 6 times. So we can divide both of them by 5. That gives us 1 here and the 6 there. Or you can just do 5 goes into 30 6 times, and the 5 will be gone, and 30 will be reduced down to 6. And also, similarly, 10 can go into 33 times, and reduce them. 15 goes into 32 times, so we reduce them. And because the way that we selected 30, we made sure 5 goes in there, 10 goes in there, and 15 goes in there. That's why after we reduce them, 5, 10, 15 should all disappear. After they disappear, we are going to get rid of all the fractions. So we only have whole numbers here. So in this case, after we reduce the numbers, we're going to multiply straight across. So recall the multiplication rule of fractions. So reduce and multiply straight across. So we're going to multiply 6 and 3x. And notice 6 times 3x, it's 18x, plus 3 times 7, that's 21, and 2 times 4x, that's 8x. Now all we have to do, so now we don't, since we don't have fractions, we just need to get x by itself. So first, notice we have x's on both sides, so we're going to try to combine them. Again, if they're on two different sides, we cannot combine directly, so we're going to have to move one of them to the other side. So I'm going to move 8x to the left so I can combine it with 18x. In order to move it, it is equivalent to getting rid of it. You can think of moving it to the left by reversing the sign, or think of it as getting rid of 8x. So we subtract 8x. And the reason we subtract is because in front of 8x, there is nothing. So we're assuming that is plus. And so positive 8x, if you want to get rid of 8 copies of x, you subtract 8 copies of x. So we get, and what one thing you need to pay attention to is sometimes we just want to get rid of 8. If you just want to get rid of 8, because the operation between 8 and x is multiplication, we have to do division. But right here, we're not getting rid of 8. We're getting rid of 8x. So the operation in front of 8x is plus. So we do reverse plus, we get minus. And so we need to be careful and make sure you distinguish these two cases. So after we subtract 8x from both sides, they cancel. And 18x minus 8x, we got 10x, bring down 21. So now I just need to get rid of 21 by reversing the operation, which is minus 21. And then I cancel out 21. The other thing here, right here, after you cancel 8x and minus 8x, you get 0, because if you have nothing, that means 0. And now we're going 0 minus 21 is negative 21, because if you have nothing and you spend $21, and that you will be $21 in debt. Now we get rid of 10 because the operation. So here since we only want to get rid of 10, and the operation between 10 and x is multiplication, we're going to reverse multiplication and do division, which is dividing by 10. 10 cancels 10. So that's the answer. And again, because the number we divided by is 10, which is positive, and that's why we don't have to flip the sign. We keep it as less than.